Have you ever noticed something interesting about life? Many people who have reached 80 often say something similar. They say quietly, "If I had known this sooner, life might have felt so much easier." It's not about some big secret. It's not about anything complicated. It's just about a few simple things that turn out to no longer matter. Imagine life like a long journey. When we were young, we often walked with a very full bag. Inside that bag were many things: the opinions of others, the endless competition, the little daily worries, and the desire to have more. At first, we didn't notice it. But after decades, the bag began to feel heavy, very heavy. And one day, many people who had traveled the long journey of life stopped for a moment. They opened the bag, looked at its contents, and then smiled a little. Because they realized something very simple: most of that burden wasn't really necessary to carry in the first place. In this video, we'll talk about 4 things in life that often seem so important. But after age 80, many people realize the truth: that happiness often doesn't come from having more, but from letting go. Letting go of unnecessary worries. Letting go of the need to always win. Letting go of the burden of other people's opinions. And slowly, learning to enjoy life in a simpler way. Imagine walking in the park in the morning. Slow pace. Fresh air. Nothing is rushed. Just calm and gratitude. That's the feeling many people discover when they finally understand what's truly important in life. And the good news: this kind of wisdom doesn't have to wait until age 80. We can begin to understand it today, little by little. Less burden, more peace, less worry, more smiles, because sometimes the most beautiful secret of life is this: life becomes so much lighter when we learn to let go of things that no longer matter. Imagine you're sitting on a park bench in the afternoon. The air feels calm. The wind moves gently through the trees. In the distance, a few people are strolling leisurely, while the sun begins to slowly set in the sky. At this age, many people suddenly realize something very simple, yet profound. A truth often not taught in school, not written in textbooks, and rarely talked about when we were younger. Many people aged 80 and over often say something similar. There are so many things I used to think were so important, but they really aren't. And when they say that, they usually smile a little. Not because they regret it, but because they finally understand life in a much lighter way. Imagine life like traveling with a big suitcase. When we were young, we often packed so much into that suitcase. Other people's expectations, overburdened ambitions, endless competition, the little worries we carry around with us. At first, it felt normal, but over the decades, the suitcase became incredibly heavy. And then, at some point in life, someone began to open the suitcase. One by one, they looked at the items inside. Then they said, "Why have I been carrying this around for so long?" And we'll discuss 4 things that are often considered very important throughout life. But after the age of 80, many people finally realize that they're no longer important. Even more than that, letting go of these things often makes life feel lighter, more peaceful, and happier. And perhaps, as you listen to this story, you too will smile and say to yourself, "Yes, that's so true." Before we continue this little journey, let me take you for a moment. This channel was created to share heartwarming stories of life. Stories that soothe the mind, and the simple wisdom we often discover as we age. If you enjoy content like this, you can support this channel by clicking the subscribe button. And if you'd like, please leave a simple sentence in the comments. Life is more beautiful when the heart is lighter. Such a small comment may seem simple, but often, a kind word from one person can be a source of strength for someone else in a different part of the world. Now, let's start with the first thing many people realize after age 80. Let's start with a simple story. One day, an elderly man was sitting on his porch with his grandson. His grandson asked innocently, "Grandpa, when you were young, what did you think about most?" The elderly man laughed softly. Then he said, "I thought too much about what people thought." He paused, then continued with a gentle smile. "And the funny thing is, Now I realize, most people don't really think about me that much. Life is often like that. When we're young, we often feel like life is a big stage. As if everyone is watching us. Are we successful enough? Do we look great? Do others like our decisions? But the reality is often different. Most people are actually busy with their own life stories. Imagine a garden full of birds. Each bird sings with a different voice. If one bird tried to make all the other birds like it, it might never sing at all. But a happy bird does something simple. It simply sings its own song. The same is true for humans. After age 80, many people finally realize that happiness doesn't come from trying to please everyone. Happiness comes when we begin to calmly say, I will live my life in a good way, and that will be enough. When this burden is released, life changes. Suddenly, your steps feel lighter. You no longer worry about petty judgments. You no longer feel like you have to prove yourself to everyone. You begin to enjoy simple things, a leisurely walk, talking with an old friend, listening to the sound of rain at night. And you realize something truly beautiful. Inner peace is far more important than the approval of others. Now let's talk about the second thing we often realize after age 80. The desire to always win. When we're young, life often feels like a big competition. Who's more successful? Who's richer? Who's smarter? Who's faster at achieving something? Even in small conversations, we sometimes feel compelled to prove ourselves right. But there's a little story often told by an 85-year-old man. He once said, when I was young, I always wanted to win every argument. Then he laughed, but now I realize something. Winning an argument often costs us peace. Imagine two people arguing about a small matter, perhaps about the best way to do something. Their voices grow louder, their faces begin to tense. But suddenly one of them smiles and says, maybe you're right. Strange, isn't it? Instantly the atmosphere changes. The tension disappears. Sometimes, the wisest decision isn't to prove ourselves right. It's to choose peace. Life isn't a sporting event that always yields medals. Life is more like a long journey with the people we love. And on such a journey, the most important thing isn't who wins. It's who's still smiling together at the end. After age 80, many people begin to understand this all too clearly. They no longer feel the need to win every argument. They often choose to say gently, it's okay if we have different views. And strangely enough, when we stop trying to win everything, life actually feels more peaceful. Like walking on a broad road without having to keep running. A small habit that for decades seemed normal. But it turns out that it was secretly making life harder. And when it was abandoned, many people discovered something incredibly valuable. A simple serenity. Because in the end, a happy life often doesn't come from getting more, but from having the courage to say gently, I don't have to carry all this anymore. Next, we'll talk about a small habit in life, one that often seems ordinary. But after the age of 80, many people suddenly realize something surprising. This habit actually consumes a lot of energy throughout their lives. Energy that could be used to enjoy simple things. Imagine a cup of warm tea in the morning. The tea is ready to be enjoyed. The aroma is gentle. The warm steam rises slowly, but imagine if someone kept stirring the cup. Over and over again, without stopping. What happens? The tea never truly settles. That's how the human mind sometimes works. We keep replaying past events, dwelling on small things, rehashing conversations long ago. But life is actually like that warm tea. It's much more enjoyable when we stop stirring so much. And we'll talk about a third thing people often realize after the age of 80. And maybe, when you hear this, you'll smile a little and say, yeah, I used to do that too. Let's imagine a long car trip. The journey is filled with beautiful scenery, tall mountains, vast green fields, a boundless blue sky. But imagine if throughout the journey, a person focused solely on one small thing. For example, a small speck on the car window. They kept looking at that speck. They thought about it. They even felt like the journey was being disrupted by that small speck. Yet, outside the window, there was an extraordinary view. That's how life sometimes works. Over the years, we often waste energy on small things. Small mistakes from the past. Small comments from someone. Small problems that don't really last long. But when people reach 80, many of them look back on their lives. And they realize something very simple. Many worries that once seemed overwhelming actually disappear on their own. An 82-year-old woman once said something very wise. He said, "Most of the things I used to worry about never actually happened." That sentence often makes people smile, because almost everyone has felt the same way. The human mind is sometimes like an overly sensitive radio. The slightest disturbance, it immediately becomes loud. But as people get older, many people start turning the volume down a little. They start saying to themselves, "This might not be as important as I thought." And when someone starts letting go of small worries, something beautiful happens. Life feels more expansive. You start noticing the sound of birds in the morning. You start enjoying simple conversations. You start seeing the little things that are actually very beautiful. Like laughing with an old friend. Like taking a leisurely walk in the afternoon. Like sitting quietly with a cup of coffee. Simple things that used to be overlooked. Because the mind was too busy with worries. But after age 80, many people finally say calmly, "Life is so much more beautiful when we don't worry about all the little things." And that's a very valuable piece of wisdom. Because sometimes, the greatest wisdom in life comes from one simple realization. It's not everything that seems important that truly matters to our happiness. Next, we'll talk about the final thing that many people realize after age 80. This is interesting, because throughout their lives, many people work incredibly hard to get what they want. They wake up early, they work for years, they chase more and more. But when someone reaches old age and looks back on their life, one very honest thought often arises. Did I really need all of that? Imagine life as a large house. Early in life, we start filling it with things. New furniture, collectibles, things that seemed important at the time. Each year, the house gets more and more crowded. But one day, when they're 80, a person walks slowly through the house. They look around. Then they smile a little and say, "Interesting, I only use a fraction of all this." And from there a very simple realization emerged. Sometimes we spend too much time accumulating things we don't really need. And we'll discuss the fourth thing people often realize after age 80. Something that seemed important throughout life, but turns out not to be the true source of happiness. The fourth thing, chasing too much material things. Let's imagine a little story. An elderly man sat on a park bench with his friend. In his hands was a cup of warm coffee. They were talking about past lives. His friend asked, "Of all the things you've pursued in life, which one made you happiest?" The elderly man didn't answer right away. He looked up at the sky, took a deep breath, and then smiled. He said, "Not a big house, not a car, not expensive things." He paused. "What makes me happiest is the time I spend with the people I love." It was a very simple sentence, yet many older people say much the same thing. It doesn't mean material things are useless. Of course, we need a comfortable home, sufficient food, and a decent life. But after age 80, many people realize something very interesting. True happiness doesn't come from how much we have. It comes from how many moments we truly experience. Imagine two people who both own homes. One person has a very large house, but rarely laughs in it. The other person has a modest house, but it's often filled with the sounds of warm conversation and family laughter. Which house feels more alive? Often the answer is clear. Life isn't a museum where we collect things. Life is more like a memory album. The most precious things aren't the objects in the house, but the stories we hold in our hearts. Like dinners with family. Like simple trips with friends. Like long conversations with someone we care about. These things may not cost much, but their value is often far greater than many material things. That's why many people after age 80 begin to live more simply. They no longer feel the need to possess too much. They prefer to have time, peace, and warm relationships. And strangely enough, when someone stops pursuing so many material things, life often feels much richer. We've discussed 4 things people often realize after age 80. First, caring too much about what others think. Second, the desire to always win at everything. Third, worrying too much about the little things. And fourth, chasing too much material things. When these 4 burdens are released, life often feels like a morning walk in the park. The air feels fresher. The steps feel lighter, and the heart feels calmer. The wisdom of old age is often very simple. Life doesn't always become happier because we have more. It often becomes happier because we carry less. If you're watching this today, you probably still have a lot of time ahead of you. And that's good news, because wisdom like this doesn't have to wait until we're 80. We can start practicing it today, little by little. Worry less. Enjoy the moment more. Compare less. Grateful more. Because in the end, a beautiful life isn't often about the busiest life, but the most meaningful life. And sometimes, the secret to the greatest happiness is one simple sentence. Learning to let go of things we never really needed. Before we part today, let me invite you to imagine a simple thing. Imagine you're sitting quietly in a comfortable chair, perhaps by a window, or in a small garden bathed in the morning sun. The wind is gently blowing. No one is in a rush. And for a moment, life feels calm and sufficient. It's in moments like these that many who have traveled the length of life say softly, life doesn't have to be so complicated to be beautiful. After decades of working, struggling, caring for a family, facing various challenges, many people finally discover a very simple wisdom. That happiness often doesn't come from adding more things to life, but from letting go of things that are no longer necessary. Throughout this video, we've talked about several things we often realize after age 80. Things that once seemed so important, but slowly become less so. The opinions of others, the desire to always win, worrying about small things, and pursuing too much material things. When one begins to let go of those burdens, life often feels like the sky after a rain. The air becomes fresher, steps become lighter, and the heart becomes calmer. But there's one thing that actually becomes more important as we age. It's not money. It's not status. It's simple, meaningful moments. Like talking with an old friend. Like hearing a grandchild laugh. Like enjoying a warm cup of tea or coffee in the morning. It's the little things that are truly the most precious treasures in life. If you're watching this today, wherever you are in the world, you've probably been through a lot in life. You've probably faced easy days, and also difficult days. But one thing's for sure. Each year of life brings new wisdom, and that wisdom often makes the heart softer, more patient, and more grateful. So if today you feel like life is moving slower, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes it's when life slows down that we finally see the beauty we've previously missed. Before this video ends, let me share a simple message. Life isn't a race. Life is a journey. And the most beautiful journeys aren't the quickest, but the most meaningful ones. If this video made you smile, or reminded you of something warm in life, you can help this channel in a very simple way. Please hit the like button so more people can find this video. You can also share this video with friends, family, or someone who might need a comforting message today. If you'd like to continue hearing heartwarming life stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And also turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Finally, I also really enjoy reading your stories. Please leave a simple sentence in the comments. Today I choose to live with a lighter heart. Your comment may seem small, but often, the kind words of one person can inspire others reading them far away. Thank you for your time today. May your day be peaceful. May your heart be warm. And may your journey through life always be filled with beautiful little moments. See you in the next video.